Policy conference really gets underway in earnest tomorrow, but it has sort of a soft opening today, if you will, and it came with the unexpected news that broke in the Detroit News today involving Mayor Duggan. And Mayor Duggan is with me now, kind enough to join us here. And as I said, this isn't the way you expected the conference to start either.
I've never seen anything like this. I don't know how you can be criticized for revealing a secret you never knew was a secret. And that's what it came down to, and I think people understand that.
I've talked to a few people who find it hard to see that you broke any kind of law or anything, but you are a former prosecutor. You do understand the sensitivity around this and that it's kind of a big deal. Right?
I understand
you wouldn't downplay it.
I understand it very well. I also understand that when you don't know somebody is a confidential source, you can't be criticized for disclosing them, and nobody ever called and said, we're working with this guy, don't talk. But I did the right thing. When Councilman Spivey said to me he had taken payments from this contractor, I went to our law department, I went to our police department, and ultimately we cleaned up the no-bid towing process in the city, so this isn't going to happen again.
Why would you, though, be discussing this person if it wasn't about this person being a source for the FBI?
Because this person had been under investigation with the Detroit Police Department, under litigation with the city law department. This was somebody who was engaged in a lot of activities, and so when it was told to me, this wasn't something that we had been investigating them for. We look at things like, did you charge the right rates? Did you go out of tow rotations? Those kinds of things. I went and told the people who were working on it. I did exactly the right thing, and no one from the feds have indicated that they have any problem with anything I've done. This is a story that came out of a tower who was in litigation with us, who is very disgruntled. That's where this story came from.
And you've got a couple of those people.
I have a fair number of those who are suing me, and within 2 weeks there's going to be a lot more, because we're going to be awarding the permanent contracts to good companies who have been vetted, and there's going to be another big storm as we send those contracts up to City Council, but this will finally eliminate the towing corruption in the city.
But Mayor, by the counting of the Detroit News, we've now had over 100 cases of corruption investigated, prosecuted over the last couple of years.
Now you're counting Macomb County, right?
Talking about
else,
all of it.
Right.
This is a mess. This is a cultural problem that we've got to find a way to get our hands around.
It is. It also reflects an outstanding U.S. Attorney's Office. I mean, you've got some folks who are really skilled at identifying people who are too cozy. If you're in my business, you can feel it immediately. And you have not seen a single member of my management team in 8 years charged with these things, but I am constant. Do not be alone with contractors. Do not have these conversations. Anybody can have their iPhone taping you in your pocket. It doesn't have to be a federal wiretap. Behave at all times ethically, and we pound on it all the time, and we've been successful. But it's hard because the amount of money that is out there on government contracts is enormous. And so you've seen lots and lots of cities around us have seen their elected officials go down.
Well, part of the dirty little secret of this is how lucrative towing away people's cars has become.
Well, anybody who's had their car towed in Detroit knows it's not the towing fee, it's the storage fees by the time they figure it out. And oh, by the way, they just closed before you got here, and it's another $200. These no-bid towing permits have been very lucrative, and they are now coming to an end, really because it started with James Craig, through James White, and now with the actions we're taking.
Do you see an alternative, though, to getting away from this dirty pile of towing people's cars? Is there any way forward other than towing people's cars away?
Well, think about what you have. You have an accident, you got to get the cars off the street.
Sure.
You find a stolen car.
Now we're getting into it.
Yeah, these are not people who left their car in a parking meter. These are people where the police call because they have a need to go. You're always going to need that. And so the new system that is in place, you're going to have to be fully vetted and bid to be selected. We're going to have a software package that tracks who got each rotation, and we're going to have the ability to terminate you immediately if you're a bad actor. We have none of those things under the old Board of Police Commissioners system, but And I give James Craig a lot of credit for starting this and James White for seeing it through. We're going to get it cleaned up.
Have you been assured by anyone that you're not under investigation?
Yeah, I have never had anybody from the feds even call and say, hey, can you keep this confidential, et cetera. So you have a story that was generated by a tower who was trying to benefit in litigation, and we're dealing with it as it is. But there's been no indication of anybody having any concern with anything I've ever said.
But in broader terms, do you
the
have
answer
any
is
reason
I've
to believe
never,
you're under investigation for anything?
No.
No. What do you think as we now start to tee up what happens the rest of the week? What do you think the big themes are this week here?
You know, it's going to be interesting. I came up on the boat with Mike Shirkey, who, you know, past years we've had issues that cause people not to come. I'm really encouraged by that. I hope we get Republicans and Democrats to spend time together. We have seen signs of movement in Lansing with budget and a number of initiatives that have been bipartisan. And this is really a great environment to build bipartisan relations.
But we also have two massive issues that have reared their heads now, abortion and guns, on which Americans almost will never seem to agree. It creates the divided states of America, doesn't it?
You know what's so interesting is I coach kids soccer with, 30 parents, and they are divided in the suburbs on this. You have a way of getting along with each other day in and day out without fighting about abortion and guns. And what unfortunately has happened in this country is that we have some political forces that have weaponized that, so it's all we talk about. And at some point, again, if you come into the city, you don't have those kinds of divisive conversations. I think people in the city are hopeful now. They're pulling together in a positive way. But we have to find a way as human beings to focus on the things that are common and not focus on the things we disagree on.
Nice. Last thing I want to ask you, and I know you've got another commitment to get to. We expect an announcement coming up for the automakers, in particular Ford, coming up on Thursday. I wonder, though, we've got a couple of people who believe that we are already falling behind in the EV race. We've watched plants head for Kentucky and Tennessee, most recently another one for Indiana. What are your concerns about our ability to attract the future?
You've got two different questions. One is the batteries and the other is the vehicles.
Yep.
And my interest is primarily in the vehicles. And of course, Factory Zero, the first all-electric factory, is in the city of Detroit, GM, where they're building the electric Hummers and the electric Silverados at the Michigan train station. Bill Ford has got the entire center of research for electric and automated vehicles in the city of Detroit. And what Stephen Ross is trying to do with the University of Michigan and this Center for Innovation is going to create a pipeline of talent that is going to give us a huge competitive advantage. And so there will always be competition for a particular real estate deal. The question is, where's the future of the auto industry being decided? And right now it's being decided in Detroit.
You're not concerned about where we are?
Again, I can't, on these battery plants where they need 600 acres, I don't have 600 acres, right?
That's fair enough.
There's no doubt about it. If I had 600 acres, I would have found a way to beat Indiana. But I've got 40 and 50 acres at this point, and we're competing very successfully for every 40 and 50 acre site. But more importantly, you look at Waymo, the Google subsidiary. They are assembling their self-driving vehicles in the city of Detroit. That's a Silicon Valley company. They picked us. And I just can't overstate, and you should talk to Stephen Ross about this, if he succeeds, and I believe he will, in building the University of Michigan Center in Detroit, we're going to be positioned for a long, long time. Plants will go here and there depending on the market conditions of a particular plant, but I think the future of the industry is here.
All right, Duggan, I know we'll talk to you through the rest of the week. Thanks very much for the time.
All right, good to see you.